Special services down 2.76%. Fire services down 10%. That is primarily because of heavy equipment that we pulled out of there. Under your capital projects fund, you'll see that SPLOST 8 reduces by 46%. That is because SPLOST 8 ends in December, so you only have half of your collections in there. There is a SPLOST 9 fund created in anticipation of that. That will only become active if you actually have SPLOST 9 during the year. T-SPLOST, really no change in that. Public roads, LMIG, just based on our current spending, that has increased a little bit. Under your water sewer funds, there's an 11% increase there. That is based on the growth in that program as well as some of the cost for ADM. Landfill, no change in that. Lighting districts up just a little bit as you add more lighting districts, and with changes in utility costs, that always increases a little bit, but that fund is still in the black. Inspections and permitting, a little bit of an increase there as that program grows. Quiet Pines has a decrease of 8.71%. That is primarily because the building is currently not usable, and we anticipate that coming back around the first of the year. So we anticipated a slower operation during the year. Equipment maintenance fund, that does have a large increase in there with the capital that has been purchased, the depreciation, the improvements to buildings that have happened through the ADM process, and also just the general cost of maintenance that has increased significantly. Health insurance is down slightly. Workers' compensation up 12.51%, and the technology fleet is up 8%. So overall, your total funds are up 7% to $165.6 million. On the general fund side, you'll see taxes are up 5%. The majority of that is not property tax. The majority of that is your title ad valorem tax and your local option sales tax, which have both seen increases. Licenses and permits, intergovernmental, those are both decreasing. There is a decrease in a lot of revenue sources across the board. Charges for service is virtually flat at 1.48%. Fines and forfeitures are up slightly, 15%. Those seem to fluctuate from year to year. You'll have a year or two where those increase, and then you'll have a year or two where they decrease again. And then miscellaneous is down 12.72%. That's going to include things like rents, interest income, and general sales. On the expenditure side, you'll see general government is down 3%. Judicial is down 0.8%. Public safety is up 5.78%. Public works is up about 4%. Health and welfare is down 2.73%. Culture and recreation is up 15.57%, and housing and development up 18.51%. So your total expenditures are up 4.4%. Once you take in the transfers back at the general fund revenues, taxes make up 84.92% of the budget. That is down from 85.21% last year. That is the primary source of revenue. However, most of that is not property tax. Well, if you look at the next graph here, 57.19% of that is property tax. The rest of it is made up by local option sales tax, which is 31.46%, and the TABT, which is 9.96%. General fund expenditures, you'll see general government is 17.05%. That's down from 18.55% last year. Judicial makes up 11.28%, and public safety makes up 41.64%. Public works is 11.87%. That's the majority of your general fund expenditures. Where does your money go? For every dollar of property tax that you pay, 9% or 9 cents goes to the Board of Commissioners and Administration. 1 cent goes to Board of Elections. 2 cents to the Tax Commissioner. 3 cents for the Board of Assessors. 2 cents for engineering services. 1 cent for contingency. 13 cents goes to court services. 36 cents goes to the sheriff's office. 2 cents to animal service. 2 cents to emergency medical services. 2 cents to all other public safety. 12 cents for public works. 5 cents for the industrial authority. 7 cents for the recreation authority, and 3 cents to all the others, including outside agencies.
Any questions or comments from Ms. White?
Just one, Stephanie, in particular as pertains to recent events. Do you think we may have enough flexibility in the budget in the event the cost of gas goes up in a dramatic way, as some are projected possibly?
I mean, we try to anticipate some of that, but, and we also have contingency in there to try to cover that. The way the equipment maintenance fund works is there is an estimation of cost based on history and usage of vehicles, but it's built in a way that, you know, if you've had vehicles that have maybe blown motors, that pushes your average cost up. But if you're not gonna have those this year, then that's just additional money that goes into the fund if someone else blows a motor or something like that. So there's a little bit of cushion built into that to try to cover some of those costs. But what would happen is at the end of the year, additional funds would have to be put into that, and then that would push the cost up for next year.
Appreciate it. I was just thinking because, our end, what we got going on, we're projecting the gas prices to shoot up a little bit, so.
Any other questions?
Can you go back to one of the first slides where the fire services equipment, it was something that.
The fire services budget was going down 10%. That was because of the, it was, back before the general fund. Let me get to the budget comparison document. There you go.
Elaborate on that change.
Okay, so in previous years, what you had in your fire budget included things like new fire trucks. We pulled those fire trucks out of the fire services budget in anticipation of putting them in a SPOS 9.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
This value, is that the millage that fire services receives?
Wait, on which,
The fire services, 2026, almost $8 million.
that is the expenditures, which is slightly under the amount of revenue.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Stephanie.
Mr. Chairman, I have one thing to make you all aware of that Stephanie and I became aware of last week after a conversation with Lisa Bryant. And it was near the end of the week, so today we'll be finding out some more information specifically. There were some changes in the formatting of the assessment notices that were sent out this year by the state due to House Bill 581. Because of that, and Stephanie can elaborate, she's had more conversations with Lisa on this so far than I have. but they only listed our countywide millage. They did not list the additional millages. Lisa has had a conversation with the state preliminarily. What we have been told is that the purpose of the assessment notices from the state's perspective is to make citizens aware of their value, not the actual dollar amount of their tax bill. But as we all know, many people choose to file an appeal because of the dollar amount that is on their tax bill, not because of their value. And so we are very concerned with the confusion that this is going to cause, because tax bills are going to go out, and of course they're going to include the additional millages that we have. So far, we're not sure that the state has been very sensitive to our plight, but this is something that we've got to figure out how to change. There have been some counties across the state that I think have tried to send out their own assessment notices, and that has not satisfied the state either. So we are working through to figure out the best route to recommend to you all, for you all to approve, for us to take, to make sure that we clarify this with our citizens.
We're the government and we're here to help. Any other questions? All right, well, this is a public hearing, so is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the budget, negatively or positive? Anyone that would like to speak on the budget? All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing, and commissioners, if there's no other questions, then we'll adjourn the public hearing. So move.